Hi, I'm Marina. I work full-time as a cloud software consultant, and recently I've been searching for the perfect monitor. After a ton of research, I ended up buying this one, the Dell U4025QW Ultrawide. And I want to review this monitor from the point of view of someone who doesn't know much about monitors in general. I work a full-time 9-to-5 job. I'm not a YouTuber or a reviewer, so I want to concentrate on my own personal experience and how this monitor impacted my particular workflow. So first of all, why ultra-wide? Well, it's pretty simple. It's because I need as much screen space as possible. I had a dual monitor setup at my previous job where I worked as IT support. It was fine, and I'm not knocking dual monitor setups. They're great, but I don't like having the bezel right in the middle, and sometimes it would annoyingly mess up my app window sizing when disconnecting and reconnecting my laptop. When I started my current job a few years ago, it was 100% remote and work from home. And I was using a basic 4K monitor from LG, and it just wasn't big enough. And then moving to ultra-wide, I noticed a few benefits. Firstly, obviously no middle bezel. If I'm concentrating on one window for a long time, I can put it right in the middle of my screen and I don't have to have my head turned slightly to one side like a dual monitor setup. That can cause my neck to feel a little stiff after a while. The ultrawide also acts pretty much identically to a dual monitor setup too. This is a 5K 2K resolution, so 5120 pixels wide and 2160 pixels high, which is essentially a 4K resolution. Splitting that horizontal resolution in two to give me a virtual dual monitor setup means I technically get something similar to two 2560 by 2160 monitors, but with a more squarish aspect ratio. And in those situations where I have a task that can take advantage of the entire screen, I can expand that window all the way out, like an Excel sheet with a lot of columns, or when doing automation flows. I can still see these on a 27-inch screen, but I'd have to zoom out to see the entire flow, and then zoom in to edit individual components. With the ultrawide, I can have the whole flow on the screen and edit without zooming in or out, and also have the component editing panel up. Also, when choosing such a wide monitor, I really wanted a curved screen so the far edges were easier to read. I have used a flat ultrawide before and I didn't really like it. Apart from the ultrawide aspect, resolution was another non-negotiable for me. I wanted 4K because I've used 1440p monitors before, and the pixel density just isn't enough for me personally. I stare at text all day and I want it to be as sharp as possible. When I was watching some reviews of monitors before deciding on this one, I saw a lot of comments mentioning that 4K monitors are a bad choice for macOS. Something to do with the way macOS is coded and not scaling perfectly unless it was a macOS friendly resolution like 1440p, 5K or 6K. To be honest, I had no idea this was a thing. I literally never noticed it, and at the end of the day, 4K still looks and feels pretty sharp to me. And I also couldn't find any similar ultrawide monitor for sale that came with a resolution other than 1440p or 5K 2K, so I guess they just don't exist. I noticed people commenting about the refresh rate as well, saying that 120Hz should be the minimum for monitors sold in 2025. This one does actually have 120Hz refresh rate, but again, I just don't really notice it and it wasn't a factor in my purchase decision. I'm not a big gamer, so I've never really used a high refresh rate monitor before, and I also spend 99% of my day looking at a static screen where refresh rate isn't relevant. But overall, while 120Hz was nice, it's not something I really cared about. One feature I did care about was the built-in Thunderbolt 4 hub. Not many monitors have this, and I appreciate having the ability to plug my MacBook in with a single cable and be able to output an image to the screen, keep it charged, and use the monitor as a USB hub for my accessories. Previously, I used a cheap USB-C hub and it worked fine, but it left a bit of a mess on my desk and it didn't have that many ports. Port selection on the Dell is surprisingly good. I'll put an image on the screen now so you can take a closer look at the exact ports and their speeds. Really, all I needed is a place to plug in my webcam, speakers, Logitech wireless dongle, and a light bar. And then I can route all the cables behind the monitor and get the super clean and minimal result, which is actually really functional too, because I have my monitor mounted on a monitor arm and I have so much room underneath the monitor where I didn't before. For any quick access needs, like plugging in a USB drive or charging my phone, there's a drop-down front hub with a few ports. I just keep a spare USB-C cable at my desk, and that allows me to keep my mouse, keyboard, or phone charged if necessary. When I'm not using it, it's really easy to put away and make everything look nice and clean again. I guess the only negative is that although it's advertised as a Thunderbolt 4 hub, I can't plug in Thunderbolt 4 accessories and get full speed. I think that Thunderbolt 4 rating is mostly to ensure that there's enough bandwidth for the image output between the laptop and the monitor, plus a few basic accessories like a webcam, of course. In terms of build quality, I'm pretty happy with it. Even though it's made of plastic, it doesn't make squeaky noises or flex when I move it around. Aesthetically, I like the look of it too. The front bezels are relatively thin, and although I never see the back of it, I think the minimal matte white and silver goes well with my setup. For those of you that plan to use the monitor stand, it's heavy and sturdy. I didn't notice any major shaking when using it. And it also allows for some height and swivel adjustments. By the way, if you're enjoying this video from the point of view of someone who works full-time, please hit subscribe down below. Now it's time to talk about a few random observations I've discovered about this monitor over the past few weeks. First, the screen wake-up time was surprisingly fast. Some monitors can take a while to wake, but I consistently get about 1 to 2 seconds on the Dell. Screen brightness was also perfectly adequate. It gets really bright in this room during afternoons, and even then I never found myself maxing out the brightness levels. I usually have it around 70% and drop it further at night. I was initially worried about how screen sharing would look like when on a call with my team or clients, but it works fine in both Slack and Teams. They can see the entire screen, or I can select specific windows to share. I also really appreciate that Dell made the menu navigation system really clean and simple. There's a small joystick on the back too, which makes changing settings really easy. One game changer I found recently was an app called Better Display. I mentioned the 4K monitor scaling issues before, and apparently by installing this app, I can improve this slightly. But I didn't notice a huge difference. I really just wanted the brightness control feature. Better Display allows me to change the monitor brightness using a slider in the app menu, or even with the keys on my keyboard, so I no longer had to dig around in the monitor menu system. So I guess I should probably answer the question of, is this the best monitor for coding? Before making my decision, I tried to decide which factors were most important for me, and it ended up being screen real estate and a high resolution for sharp text and UI elements, a minimum of 4K. Starting with resolution. During my research, I found a few ideal choices for Mac OS based workflows: a 27-inch 5K resolution monitor like the Apple Studio Display, or the Asus ProArt PA27JCB. These would have been ideal because the mountain of text and code I look at every day would scale perfectly and look super sharp. If I was just writing code and looking at the terminal all day, I would definitely consider it. But writing code is only a small part of my day now. I spend a lot of time interacting with my team, clients, multitasking, and building charts in Lucidchart. 27 inches is just too small for that. There is a 32-inch monitor with a 6K resolution from Asus that was just released, but again, it just wouldn't give me that horizontal workspace that I wanted. I briefly considered the LG Julep, which is more of a square-shaped monitor and is apparently popular for coding workflows. But I just wasn't convinced at how useful it would be, and it would require me to tilt my head up to see the top section of the screen. I get a sore neck really easily, and I thought it would make it flare up. And yeah, overall, I am very happy with the Dell. I have no complaints, and it's been almost perfect for my day-to-day work. Really, the only major improvement I could think of is maybe a future model could be specifically designed for Mac OS and have a webcam built in and a true 5K Mac OS compatible resolution, like an ultrawide version of the Apple Studio Display, but with the port selection of this Dell. But hey, maybe one day. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions about my setup or my job, please leave a comment down below.